Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be way too complicated, but there is a better, simpler way to buy. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to live events. And right now, get a $20 rebate on your first purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code J&J today.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me a boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
And we remain Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN2. What do we do?
We get the people.
Yes, we do. What do we give them?
They want.
Because of the MLB playoffs, we're still preempted on radio, but we will always leave you with a dope pod to step to. So we provide exclusive content. So, Jalen, we spent a lot of the television show today discussing the NBA because we are on the dawn of the NBA starting, the Celtics and Cavs game. I'm so excited for it tomorrow, and the West Coast game at night. But this was an interesting week in the NFL. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers got hurt.
Crazy.
I couldn't help but notice that your Lions lost to the Saints.
Yeah.
After they had an interception on the 1-yard line, ran into the end zone, making it a one-score game. And I'm saying to myself, could the comeback Cats do it again? Could this be another one of those games? And then what did Stafford do?
Yeah.
Gave him a touchdown right back. There were some interesting performances all over the National Football League. Chiefs losing. There's no longer an undefeated team in the NFL. And it really feels like there are 5 or 6 teams in the NFC that could go to the Super Bowl. But what do we do in this podcast, Jalen Rose? The people want the NBA season, and the NBA season is upon us, just hours away from the Celtics and Cavs. While there are a slew of predictions and rankings and previews all over the place, we thought that we would highlight some of the more underappreciated and underreported stories as we head into the season. Jalen, this is interesting. You always say it's a point guard-driven league, but this season you say the bigs are back. Why is that?
The bigs are back in town.
Wow, I like this.
Here's the deal. So as you acknowledge, what I mean by point guard-driven league is not only usage with the basketball, but usually with most of the teams actually lead the squad in points, shot attempts, and or assists, really dominating the ball. Look no further than last year's MVP and Russell Westbrook. Now, these bigs, however, are Hakeem Olajuwon, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal leading their teams to championships, but I always do a distinction between the skill versus the will bigs, and then the best of both worlds.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is guys that, with their skill, able to dribble, pass, and or shoot, and or score on the post, are offensively dominant. So those are players like Karl Anthony Towns, who averaged over 20 points last year. Jokic in Denver, who was 4th in the league in triple-doubles. Nurkic, who showed his potential once he got to the Portland Trailblazers, going to be a game changer playing down low with the Mama's boys. So those are the guys that really stand out in the skill category.
And you would say that there's more of them now than there have been in previous years.
Absolutely. They continue to nurture. They continue to work on their craft. And now all of a sudden, these guys become focal points of the offense in a lot of ways because they open up the post. They're able to do drop passes. They're able to do dribble handoffs. And now, instead of just being guys that are able to catch and finish, they're actually able to create plays for their teammates at the skill spot.
What about some will bigs?
The will bigs, these are guys that will get you a bucket every now and then on the block. If you drop it to them, you want to reward them Matambo style. But they're in the league basically to run, jump, dunk, i.e. catch lobs, and block shots. These players are Rudy Gobert, whose offense is improving, Andre Drummond of the Detroit Pistons, and Steven Adams. Now, big fella, you at least got to lead your team in rebounding this year. Russell can't lead the squad in rebounding.
He will.
That just can't happen.
That was an experiment. That was a year-long experiment.
But these are guys that changed the game in that way. They talk about so many intangibles, but energy is one. That's something that all of those guys bring. Andre Drummond, improving offensive player on the block. But have you seen his free throw percentage? Dre, you know I love you. You know I want the Pistons to go to the playoffs. We got to get better at the line.
Not sure if either of those things will happen. But then there's this elusive third category, the best of both worlds, the R. Kelly Jay-Z album. Who has both the skill and the will?
So I could go to the OG like Marc Gasol's been defensive player of the year, but still playing, facing up the basket. I could go Anthony Davis, who's amongst the league leaders seemingly every year, not only points, but rebounds and blocks. But let's go deeper into the box for a couple of young.
Who's added to that list now? Who's new this year?
And the thing I like about these two guys is I see them on social media having a little spat. Mm-hmm. Because they're both on the come up in their own way.
And they're both great at social media.
One is Joel Embiid. We saw him get a maximum deal this offseason with the Philadelphia 76ers. He can shoot the three, he can play on the post, he gets you a couple of blocks, he's a physical presence. And then you see him shoot the one-leg step-back jumper in preseason. You normally don't see guys his size with that level of touch. And the other guy I mentioned is Hassan Whiteside.
Yep.
Initially, his jumper looked a lot uncomfortable, especially when he caught it in the paint. But when I see the big fella on the block, he's down there doing work. Double-figure points, double-figure boards, amongst the league leaders in block shots. These are two up-and-coming bigs to the category of best of both worlds.
So you've got your will bigs, your skill bigs, and your best of both worlds big. There is an interesting thing that's happening in New Orleans where there are two bigs. There are two people that would play the five if they didn't both have each other on the roster. And that, of course, is Anthony Davis and Boogie Cousins. I don't think this experiment is going to work. What do you think this year has in store for DeMarcus Cousins?
It's going to work for both players because they're too talented and too productive not to put up big numbers. It's not going to work for their squad because I don't think they're playoff bound, especially in the Western Conference. What I think ends up happening, and I talked about this with Isaiah Thomas, and I'm looking at Paul George as well. When you have current all-star level players that haven't signed long-term deals with their teams, there's a reason for that. And you saw Russell Westbrook, he's like, where my contract at? Oh, I see y'all can build a squad around me. Thanks a lot. John Wall, good looking out. And so I think DeMarcus Cousins holds the keys to what may be the opportunity for the next super team.
Ooh, tell me more, Mr. Rose.
In the NBA.
Tell me more.
Right.
Tell me more. DeMarcus Cousins is the key to the next super team. You're going to have to unpack that a little bit for me.
He got the keys. Here's the thing. Because Boogie could jump up and say, you know what? I work out in L.A. in the summer. I like to break bread there. Why don't I end up playing with the Lakers? And then all of a sudden, you have another skill guy in Boogie playing in the same building as another will guy that I omitted, DeAndre Jordan. Now all of a sudden, Paul George is like, remember talking about going home to L.A.? That looks pretty good.
Looks a little better. And then LeBron
both
starts
of them
looking
on the phone
up.
With LeBron.
Yeah, he's like, you want me to redo my deal?
We supposed to get together at the draft in
Cleveland
with me,
deal.
you, and Melo, but it didn't happen. Maybe we could do it in L.A. with Magic. So, Boogie holds the keys because as Paul George may finish the year with OKC, I don't think DeMarcus does in New Orleans.
There's a lot of chatter in the MVP race about Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James being sort of at the forefront to win that award. Who is a real dark horse candidate that you could see coming up and snatching that trophy?
A handful of years ago, I labeled this squad Team Futuristic because of this player, the Milwaukee Bucks, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. For those that haven't been paying attention, all of the major statistical categories, he ranked in the top 20. That has happened never. He's the first player to actually do that. He's in the Eastern Conference. They have an opportunity to be a top 4, worst case 5 seed. He's going to improve his jump shot. I look for him to have the kind of year when you look up at the end of the season, it's like, wait a minute. We know about Brown. We know about Kawhi. Okay, KD, what's happening, Steph? Okay, Russell. And he's like, wait a minute. Giannis may get this trophy. It's going to be the kind of year that he's got to be in that conversation, and it's going to be closer than a lot of people realize for a player that could walk down the street still, and a lot of people wouldn't know who he is.
Jalen, even after the craziest offseason in the history of the NBA, when we saw a new Big Three form in Oklahoma City, we saw Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving join the number one seed in the East. We saw Chris Paul join James Harden in Houston. But on May 31st of 2018, at Game 1 of the NBA Finals, are we still headed toward another Warriors-Cavs Finals?
I already have my hotel room booked in the Bay Area. I already have my plane ticket. See, when you've been doing the NBA Finals for television each year since 2002, you don't wait till the last minute to book your travel. Nope. Because you know what happens when everybody starts to realize that something is a finality? Everybody's on the phone with the travel agent. Everybody's on the phone with the airline trying to get car service. I already have mine. We will be in Golden State for Game 1. LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Kevin Love. That will be our NBA Finals, no question about it.
Fantasy sports just got a lot easier to play and win with the hottest new games by Dober.Games. No more long lineups or complicated salary caps. Create at least 3 matchups and you're good to go. Make any combination of matchups you want. Play all quarterbacks this week, receivers next week. Even make picks across multiple sports. Just pick 3 matchups to win cash prizes. Dober.Games is one of the fastest, easiest ways to play daily fantasy sports. That's Dober.Games. Dober.Games. Use promo code HOOPS to enter a free contest with cash prizes just for joining. You can win cash fast, easy at Dober.Games. Sign up right now at Dober.Games. Use promo code HOOPS to enter a free contest with cash prizes just for joining. Void where prohibited. See site for restrictions. Must be of legal age in your state or area. Fantasy sports just got a whole lot easier to play. Play big, win bigger at Dober.Games.
As the NBA season is upon us, I have some predictions that you will evaluate, Dr. Rose. Are you prepared?
What up, Doe?
First, I predict that before Thanksgiving, we will hear reports of tension between Chris Paul and James Harden. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy.
What? Thanks.
And the tension isn't going to be because they don't respect each other. It's not because they're both aren't terrific players. The issue is going to be it's only one basketball. And the one thing I noticed when they were playing together, and you can't do this in sports, especially in the NBA, is take turns. And so Chris Paul, who's been a ball dominant and rightfully so guard, around 18 and 10, a couple of steals his entire career, is because he navigates so well. And he makes players around him better. And it just so happens that he can score the basketball, and now he can even make the 3 consistently. Yep. James Harden is one of the few players that have ever led this league in total points and in assists. Very unique for a guy that's done this recently. So based on the substitution patterns, trying to get each of them time with the other 4 guys when the other one isn't on the floor, that's going to create a unique dynamic that they personally won't be at odds, but it's only one basketball. And because the roles are going to be so tough to define, that in itself, not the individuals, is going to create a level of friction.
Jalen, I predict that after taking a season off this year, Draymond Green will get back to kicking people. Am I crazy?
You are crazy.
What?
Draymond Green will throw elbows.
What?
He will give forearm shivers.
He's getting back to kicking people. It's part of who he is. It's what he does.
He will not be kicking people, however. I think that phase of his career has ended. He understands he has an opportunity to play with the dynastic squad in the Golden State Warriors, and he's going to have a terrific season. So I think you're crazy to challenge my guy that represents Saginaw Pride. All right, all right.
Dr. Rose, no more Carmelo, no Phil Jackson, but no improvement. I think the Knicks are still going to be terrible this year. They're going to be worse than last year. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy.
Oh, no.
And
good?
I know you're a die-easy Knicks fan. Yes, you don't have Phil, but he's still going to collect his over $60 million over those handful of years. You don't have Carmelo, but he had a no-trade clause. And so he helped navigate his way out of town. You're going to like Enes Kanter playing up front with Porzingis, however. Tim Hardaway in the backcourt. While the Knicks may not be a playoff team, their win-loss record will probably mirror what it did last year.
Dr. Rose, I think as the season goes on and we get exposed to more and more of the actual play of their young core, the Lakers will actually become a less attractive destination for potential free agents as the year goes on. Am I crazy?
I couldn't hear everything you were saying because Reg was talking to me. So repeat that. My assistant was in the operating room with the gaffle.
Thank you. I predict that as the season goes on, the Lakers will become a less attractive destination for potential free agents. Am I crazy?
Based on if you think about going to play with their squad because they're going to make a playoff push, or Brandon Ingram is going to average 25 points, or Ball is going to be in the top 3 in assists, then that makes you crazy. If you're going to go to L.A. to be a part of a storied franchise that has a resurgence in its future eventually because Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka are running things, and your Boogie Cousins and or Paul George, and you just say, I want to go home regardless of who's on the squad, then I agree with you. But you're going to need those guys to show another level of improvement to me if you're going to lure a guy like LeBron James from Cleveland.
Dr. Rose, I predict this season Joel Embiid finally gets what he really wants. An all-star selection and a date with Rihanna. Am I crazy?
You're half crazy.
What?
Because he will be an all-star, but Rihanna's in a relationship.
Is she? We're going to get to my final question, my final prediction, the most important one. I think after the NBA season starts, fatigue sets in, travel, I think with all of this will be hard on someone in the NBA. I think it's going to be hard on Jalen Anthony Rose. And I think that we will have the return of Kangaroo Jalen by the end of the season. Am I crazy?
You definitely crazy. You'll see Durag Jalen. You'll see Jalen with the bat. You will never see Kangaroo Jalen ever again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rose. Part of giving people they want is opening up our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed and our voicemail line. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail, and we'll play it on the show just like this.
What up, though? It's LeMarcus from Kansas City, doing the super boss move of getting ready to drop my daughter off to school, who goes into class saying what up, though, to her teachers because she listens to way too much Jalen Jacoby show with her dad. But I had a question. Boss move, boss move. I'm calling with the intention of getting on the air so that I can have my name, which is Marcus from Kansas City, be read on the air for the trifecta. I got on to the Bomani Jones Right Time podcast, in the Unblocking Soul segment, and I got on to the Tony Kornheiser podcast, and he read one of my emails. So how about y'all go ahead and make it 3 for 3, hook the boy up, and me and my little princess as we make our way to school. What up, though? Okay, she's not going to say it now. But anyway, we giving the people what they want. What's up, Reg, Harlan, rest of the staff, Alex, shout out.
What do you think about Marcus from Kansas City?
I got love for Marcus, and I appreciate not only he's a supporter of Bomani's Bomani's show, as well as Tony's podcast, is that he's taking his daughter to school.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, number one. Number two, there are a lot of things they could be listening to in the car.
Mm-hmm. A lot of things that she would rather listen to in the car, I'm sure.
Nah, not necessarily true.
Well, my kids, they like the Moana soundtrack. They love J&J, but they would rather hear the Frozen soundtrack.
But your name is in J&J. You know how it goes. You can be cool to everybody except your kids. That's just kind of how this works. But with that being said, we're glad that we were able to give him the trifecta, give him the shout out on the air. If he's a Chiefs fan, I know he's a little disappointed by seeing them lose to Pittsburgh. Travis Kelce, they kept him quiet. I think that was a major factor clearly in the game.
Hunt couldn't run the ball for the first 3 quarters. They couldn't really get anything going on the ground.
And Hunt, wasn't able to get going in the second half like he was able to do in previous games. But I still think without Eric Berry, that squad, along with the Pittsburgh Steelers, could easily face one another in the AFC Championship.
I'm a die-easy Patriots fan, and sure, we beat the Jets, but that didn't feel good. You didn't walk away from that one feeling good about the Patriots. Next, we're going to our Twitter feed. This is from Allie, and I'm going to ask this one, even though Allie knows it's going to make me mad. This may irritate Jacoby, but how is Jalen's fantasy team looking right now? We haven't heard much about it. Last year, we heard a lot about your fantasy team. Oh, weekly updates. I was getting texts about your fantasy team. Nope, not this year.
Well, here's the update. Won yesterday 118 to 117.4 because the New York Football Giants didn't allow the Denver defense that I was facing to go crazy and cost me the victory, along with Molly. So therefore, we now stand at 5-1.
Ooh. Good for you, Jalen. That's a good record.
Overall, amongst the league leaders in total points. And here's the deal. I was going through looking at everybody's rosters today. Man, it's been an interesting year. First off, with injuries. David Johnson, Odell Beckham, now Aaron Rodgers.
J.J. Watt.
But Houston's defense, you got to pay more attention to fantasy because Houston's defense still blowing up. But also, then you have players that you projected to do so very well that have been pedestrian, like Jay Ajayi for Miami. He got going a little bit on Sunday, but these are all people that were like high-level picks. Look in Dallas, their running back situation. Ezekiel Elliott, is he going to be in 6 games? Is he going to be out? So for fantasy football, man, it's been a unique year. But sitting at 5-1 at this point of the season, look up and down, say, I'll take her.
The San Antonio Spurs have signed LeMarcus Aldridge to a 3-year, $72 million extension. They'll be paying LeMarcus Aldridge an average of $1 million a year. If my math is right, which I think it is. I don't know why they did this. Why did they do this? They did not need to do this.
How about this? I want you to recall another deal that was done this offseason and then compare the ages and compare the numbers. Pau Gasol was also re-signed by the squad.
Well, Pau Gasol opted out or something. They thought that he was going to take a lower number and end up taking a higher number. I don't know what's happening with San Antonio. And the basketball world has this blind faith in Greg Popovich that I just don't have. I just don't have it.
Well, here's the blind faith you could possibly have. It works both ways because now that contract makes him tradable. Because if he's going to be a productive player like he's been at certain points of his career, clearly, now you can move him, and a team knows that he's going to be under contract for the next couple of years. But he is a productive player.
Until the games get big or you're in the playoffs, and then all of a sudden his productivity just completely disappears.
Not every year. I saw him be dominant against the Houston Rockets, turning over both shoulders.
2015,
right.
maybe?
Right.
I want to say 2014.
Right. Well, it happened. It happened.
Okay. Chandler Parsons, you need to guard Damian Lillard on that play. Come on, man. Next, we have co-producer Matthias. He has a question. Is it crazy to take Blake Griffin into the MVP conversation?
Yes, it's the room's too crowded.
Dr. Rose, is Matthias crazy?
Yeah, the room is too crowded. But here's what I'm going to say. You're going to look down at the stat sheet for Blake. You're going to be pushing 20 plus. You're going to be pushing 10 plus. You're going to be pushing 5 dimes. And he's dating a Jenner.
There you go. Let's listen to another voicemail.
Hey, Jalen Jacoby. David from Utah. I just got a question. I guess some information, too. As a believer that the kangaroo apocalypse is upon us, I wanted to know what Jacoby thought and what Jalen thought of the Great Emu War in Australia. 1932, Australia lost a war to emus. I'm wondering if they're potentially allies to the kangaroos, if we could see the kangaroo apocalypse move along faster if they were allied by emus. I'm serious, though. Check this out. Australia lost a war to emus, and it's very likely that they'll lose the war to kangaroos as well. Anyways, keep getting those checks while you can.
All right.
This is all you, my brother.
Well, the staff has done some research here.
What? No, they've done some research for you.
The Emu War, also known as the Great Emu War, was a nuisance to wildlife management military operation in Australia in the latter part of 1932. There was a concern about the amount of emus running amok in Campione, Australia. So what ended up happening is they took to war with guns, and they tried to kill as many emus as possible. They actually ended up losing the war to the emus. At first they tried this. They had machine gunners, and next they tried something else. So I'm going to put this as not directly related to the kangaroo apocalypse, but the kangaroos know about the Great Emu War. And as the first the first round of defense from our species against the kangaroo species is the Australians, this history of losing wars to animals does concern me. Because as I predict, they will take over Australia first and then spread from there. Much like my father used to do when playing the board game Risk.
I like what you did there.
Yeah, that's a fact. That was his strategy. It worked really well. If you're ever playing Risk, I think it's Risk. Is that Risk? Is it Risk? Yeah. With the war? Yeah. Start in Australia, build all your bullets there, and then there you go.
Shout out.
I know a song, Play It At Your Own Risk.
Okay.
I'm telling you, play it at your own risk.
They used 9,860 bullets and only killed 986 emus. Wait a second. The math is too perfect. That math is way too perfect. You know what? Our producer Alex sent me that one. It cannot be that there was one emu killed for every 10 bullets. The math just works out too perfect there. I don't know if that's fact. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. Ladies.
Hey, ladies.
Every Wednesday, we have Women Crush Wednesday. And a lot of people listen to this podcast on Tuesday. So if you're listening to this podcast, ladies, pick up your phone, dial 985-80-JALEN, leave us a voicemail. We'll play only female voicemails on Wednesday's show.
Saw a couple of nice one-hand grabs. Marvin Jones of the Lions did one. Laquan Treadwell. Laquan Treadwell of Minnesota. I wanted him to do the Quan. Do the Quan. Do the Quan.
Ladies, don't forget to leave us a voicemail, 985-80-JALEN. Leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on the show just like this.
What up, though, Jalen and Jacoby? Keep giving people what they want. I love the show. Been listening to it for about 2 years now, 3 years now, and I'm listening to it at work right now. And just wanted to say the nickname for Richard might be cultural, but perhaps one of the most famous Richards was Richard Gregory. and he didn't go by Richard, Jalen. Yo, keep getting them checks, yo.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate the love. And not only is Mr. Gregory one of my favorites, but he was a pioneer for so many that came behind him, including another Richard Pryor. So I like what our caller did there. I appreciate the education. I stand checked and corrected. But that's the only one we know.
Jalen Rose, the 2018 Iowa State basketball recruits recreated some iconic Fab Five photos. What do you think about this homage?
I'm rooting for them. I'm not mad at them at all. I think they're fly. I think they're dope. I think a lot of times, even in music and or movies, the current version that you're listening to on the radio or watching on television was something that was lifted and or remixed from something that happened in the past. And usually those become the hit records and or movies. So I like it a lot, and I appreciate the love.
I understand why you would like it. It's an homage to you. It's showing you respect and admiration. But you know why I don't like it? Got to keep the expectations low. You know, like before you've even played a game, you can't start talking about the Fab Five. You know, like let's just keep the expectations low. That's all. Just, you know, just a little advice from your buddy Uncle Jacoby. Next, Hall of Famers Karl Malone and John Stockton still hanging out together. They went to the Auburn LSU football game, and this photo was taken of them both on their flip phones. This was this weekend. This was not 15 years ago. Still having a flip phone. Soft move or boss move?
Boss move.
Why is that?
Staying true to who you are. Mm-hmm. And keeping a comfort level within your own being that I see certain things are happening, certain trends, certain technological updates. I'm going to follow some, but not all. I like my phone. It just so happens to be a flip. I'm comfortable with it, and this is what I'm rocking with. I'm not worried about people pointing and teasing and giggling.
I hope they're still using T9 texting. I was so nice at T9 texting for 2 months. Next, the Barbados Ministry of Tourism is renaming a street in St. Michael Rihanna Drive. I know you love legacy. You love statues. You love these sort of recognitions. Would you rather have a statue or a street named after you?
Statue.
Yeah, I'm going statue too.
Because there are so many people that have streets named after them. Every block has a name, as a matter of fact. And you usually don't know where or who is named after. In this case, because she is an iconic figure that does a terrific job of representing her hometown and has become a superstar in entertainment, she not only deserves a street, she deserves a statue also.
I want a main drag, too. Like, a lot of times in New York City, if you get a street named after you, it's like 1 block long in a bad neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, I want a main street that people actually go on. When I get a street named after me in Pelham, Massachusetts, where they barely don't have street signs.
MLK Drive in nice neighborhoods also.
Okay. The Thunder have been showing off their Halloween costumes. First, we have Carmelo Anthony dressed up as the Night King. Jalen Rose, you have no idea who that is, but this is a great recreation of the Night King. Well done. Looks like he spent about $1,500 on that. Then, not to be outdone, we have Russell Westbrook and Nick Collison recreating the iconic photo of Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson from White Men Can't Jump. Couple things. Number one, how mad is Kyle Singler that he was not asked to play the role of Billy Hoyle in the recreation of White Man Can't Jump? Come on.
He's not tripping.
Oh, come on. He looks just like Woody Harrelson.
He's not tripping.
Come on. He's a little mad. Tripping. He's a little mad. He said something. He said something to Russ.
He like, Russ got me on the squad. Good looking, dog.
Finally, we have this very important story. A man stole $1.2 million worth of fajitas over 9 years in Texas. Apparently, he worked for some sort of fajita frozen food distribution company, and these places were ordering hundreds of pounds of fajitas, and he would then steal them and redirect it to other customers. Jalen Rose, what would you do with $1.2 million of fajitas?
Well, he didn't have them all at once. he was slowly bleeding the company. This is a smart guy.
Oh,
unlike the movie Friday. He didn't get fired on his day off, no doubt. Because most people try to do it all at once.
We're celebrating this guy. This is a smart guy. That's what we're going with. The guy that stole over $1 million worth of fajitas in Texas and got caught.
How about this?
And got caught.
He been eating good. He been eating good.
Smart guy, Dr. Rose.
He been eating good.
We'll be back tomorrow. Jalen and Jacoby
Thank you.
on ESPN 2.
You're far too kind.
Computer, execute 12.